The allegations leveled against me are just that, allegations. Prosecutors get it wrong sometimes. This will be the biggest fight yet, but as I have stated throughout this whole process, I firmly believe that when all the facts are presented, not only will I be exonerated, but I still will be New Jersey's senior senator.
That was Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez today, standing defiantly in his first public remarks since his federal indictment on Friday. Menendez is denying any wrongdoing after prosecutors charged him and his wife with bribery and conspiracy, despite growing calls for his resignation. The senior senator says he is focused on his work in both New Jersey and Washington, and that he'll seek re-election in 2024. Kelly, you were just but a glimmer of thought of a reporter in someone's eye. In 2002, there was a guy named Robert Torricelli, who was a senator from New Jersey. And I remember when he gave a speech just almost exactly like that, as he was facing criminal charges ahead of an election cycle in New Jersey. And you know what happened to Bob the Torch Torricelli? He resigned. It seems like, as I hear Sherrod Brown join, and Sherrod Brown has a lot more to lose here than most of Menendez's colleagues, because he's in a tough re-election race in Ohio. Read the writing on the wall here. Is there some way that Menendez, in the second round of federal criminal charges that he's facing, goes the distance?
I mean, you know, it's kind of surprising that he is saying he's going for re-election here. He's saying that he's going to stay in office. It's just, you know, this catch, because we're looking at it on the Republican side with Trump and what Democrats are saying about Republicans. Then Republicans are going to say this about Democrats. And you only see, I saw AOC was one that said he should step down, he should resign. So then you're seeing this split the Democratic Party. But if you're going to say something about the Republicans, then you're going to have to say it about your own party, too. And everybody's just going to have to look in the mirror.
Emily, we talked here last week about what I'll call the Al Franken effect. Al Franken had to go for Democrats because they were trying to make a big deal out of Roy Moore, who was the Republican nominee for Senate that year in Alabama. So Al Franken, when there were accusations of improper conduct against him, Democrats said, you got to go so we can make the case against Roy Moore. Isn't there some of this from Menendez, as Democrats want to make the case against Donald Trump as being corrupt? They've got to show that they're willing to clean house on their own side, right?
Absolutely. That is a big pressure point for Democrats. And I think that's why you're seeing people like in those tougher races, like you mentioned, Senator Brown coming out and saying that he thinks that, you know, this is not something that he shouldn't stay in office, but it does put leaders in a tough spot. You never want to call on somebody from your own party to step down. We're seeing the same thing happen in the House with Congressman George Santos in New York, who is maybe just as infamous, if not more so, than Senator Menendez at this point. But definitely former President Trump is a big factor in how both parties are handling this. Of course, Republicans, what this will do to their weaponization of the government argument, that's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, Chris, John Fetterman, who is getting really good at being splashy, says he's going to give back. He's going to give back the Menendez donation in cash-filled envelopes. What's the clock here, and what are the pressure points that Democrats have against Menendez to pry him out of office? Because from Menendez's standpoint, if he were to give up his office, that's one less bargaining chip that he has with prosecutors. Yeah. That's one less thing that he has to offer. What do they do?
I think you hit the nail on the head. The pressure point is not on the Democrats. It's on Menendez. There is a primary coming up, and it's in the spring. It is not in November. He doesn't have a 4-year runway like he did the last time he was indicted. He has to make his deal with the U.S. Justice Department, if he's going to make one, prior to that primary, because I find it hard to believe, with the forces lining up against him in New Jersey, I find it hard to believe he's going to survive a primary. There are a lot of good Democrats that are just chomping at the bit to go after him. And now they have all the ammunition in the world. Now, look, he's a fighter. He's an excellent campaigner, and he's done a lot of favors for a lot of people in that state. But I think that he better make a deal before the primary, because he's not going to have much to deal with after that.
Mick.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.